Have you ever wondered why our Army is organized the way it is? How do we maintain a competitive advantage and acquire new technology? How do Army senior leaders execute their obligation to man, train, and equip Army units? How does the Army generate and maintain combat power? How do we ethically and responsibly spend billions of dollars? Why does my brigade look the way it does? Where does my USR go? All of these questions and more can be answered through the Army's system for managing change and resourcing, the Force Management Model. We can conceive of it as a system of systems, each one designed to play a part in the generation of combat power, and all of them operate simultaneously. But what is force management, and isn't that something that FA-50s do? Force managers do facilitate the process, but basic branch officers are heavily engaged at all points. The Department of Defense owns the three major systems that we will look at. They are JCIDS, DAS, and PPBE. None of these systems operate independently or linearly. For example, requirements are not approved without first considering other parts of the force management model. The foundation of force management is the strategic documents put forth by national and Army leaders. These strategic documents frame the requirements our Army needs to fight and win on the battlefield both now and in the future. The first system, the Joint Capabilities Integration and Development System, starts with top-down input and guidance from each level in the chain of command, starting with the President's National Security Strategy, the SecDef's National Defense Strategy, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff's National Military Strategy, to the Secretary of the Army's TAP, the Army Plan. This guidance is then translated into operating concepts. These documents describe our best guess as to what the future will look like, how the Army might fight that future enemy, and begin the process of identifying needs, gaps, and solutions. We call this a capabilities-based assessment. In order to ensure all of our bases are covered during CBA, we use the .mil-PF framework to analyze requirements and solutions. Each domain in the .mil-PF framework are linked, and very rarely will a change to one not impact the others. The output of the CBA process is a documented requirement that either takes the form of a material solution, as captured in an initial capability document, or a non-material solution, or a .mil-PF change request, that is, a DCR. These requirements documents are then staffed through the Army's major commands and voted on for approval either at the Army level, in the Army Oversight Requirements Council, before going to the joint level at the Joint Requirements Oversight Council, the JROC. After we have an approved and funded requirement, we can then start to build the solution to our gaps identified in the CBA. Now that we have an approved JCIDS requirement, how do they become a reality? Well, it depends on what that requirement is. In F100, we examine materiel and organizational solutions. A materiel solution will go through the defense acquisition process, and organizational solutions go through the force development process. For our purposes, here we will focus on solutions in two primary domains, material development and organizational change. For material development, we turn to the Defense Acquisition System, or DAS, and the Adaptive Acquisition Framework. From there, the Army acquisition professionals take over. They run the project through various milestones, maturing technology, prototyping, and finally producing the end product, complete with all the ammo, spare parts, and training materials. The Defense Acquisition System is a process the services use to develop major material acquisitions. These can be deliberate, like the JLTV, or very abbreviated to meet wartime requirements, such as the MRAP. First, we have to prioritize them against all other requirements. Then we need to get Congress to fund them. The Army prioritizes its requirements annually in a process called Total Army Analysis, or TAA. TAA produces a prioritized list of organizations and materiel that the Army says it needs to fight and win our nation's wars. This is then put into the PPBE system that generates the DoD budget. That budget is then sent to the President, to Congress for appropriation and authorization. Once units are designed and weapon systems are built, it's time to put the two together in a way that does not prohibit the Army from executing the missions given to it by the President. The Army's REARM, or Regionally Aligned Readiness and Modernization model, is the way Army leaders intend to modernize the Army despite its op-tempo. Through REARM, the Army measures readiness and distributes both personnel and materiel to generate ready forces for combatant commands. Because it's regionally focused, units will now be equipped to meet the missions in their assigned geographic area, as opposed to the previous method of equipping all units equally. Our next major system is the resourcing system, the Planning, Programming, Budgeting, and Execution Process, or PPBE. This entire process falls under the PPBE umbrella, planning through strategic documents, prioritization of requirements, deciding what organizations and equipment to bring into the Army during TAA. Programming is where these things, or capabilities, are aligned to potential resources in what is called the Program Objective Memorandum, or POM. This is then combined with the other service budgets and sent from the President to Congress. If Congress approves the requests, we get a budget with which to execute our plans, conduct training, build new vehicles, repair things, and pay each soldier. If Congress does not approve the budget on time, we will likely go into what's called a continuing resolution, where the funding is continued at the previous year's levels. We've just talked about the Force Management Model, the Army's system for managing change and resourcing. We also talked about the three major systems used by the Department of Defense. They are JSIDS, DAS, and PPBE. Force management and the strategic documents put forth by National and Army leaders frame the requirements our Army needs to fight and win on the battlefield, both now and into the future.